Epic Games are continuing their exclusivity rampage, this time with another Fig game. Plus, they've also opened up their doors in China, although in the same rather unofficial way to what Steam has been doing over there. Then Take-Two have stated big ambitions for Red Dead Online, seemingly with data to back it up, and over in Japan, they are seeing success with game sales in the traditional manner. There's plenty to say, so let's get right into it. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another news roundup. Epic just won't go a week without doing something newsworthy, won't they? Then on top of that, we've got more financial results coming in from a few different companies, and just between Take-Two, Square Enix, and Capcom, we really have a lot to talk about with them. First though, Epic Games, for they have snatched up another game for exclusive PC launch on their store, Mobius Digital's Outer Wilds. Outer Wilds is a game that proclaims to be equal parts Myst, Kerbal Space Program, and Majora's Mask, and was crowdfunded on Fig in 2015 for $126,000, with backers and investors, of course, being promised a Steam key for PC, Mac, and Linux support at launch, with that launch being expected to be 2016. After over 3 years of delays, the game is finally releasing this year on the Xbox One and PC via the Epic Games Store. Now, that means that a few things don't really add up here. What happened to the Mac build and the Linux build? What sort of development studio could survive in LA for 3 years on $126,000? This is speculation, to be clear, but I think we could take a pretty good stab at the answer, so let's look at what happened. In early 2018, Mobius announced their partnership with Annapurna Interactive, a smaller publisher known for their aim to publish games that are personal, emotional, and original. They also announced in 2018 that their game was coming to the Xbox One that year. Now, truth is, both of these parties would likely have been, necessary to keep development of the game going. Paying a tiny team a decent wage in LA, that's going to burn six figures in no time at all. So it's clear that they maybe underestimated the amount of work involved, maybe they became too ambitious, or both. Most of this is pretty apparent following their game's Fig update history as well. Given that after signing on with Annapurna and Xbox, the game was still running late, it's fair to say that they probably had to reach out again, maybe for more funds, and maybe this time it was Epic, and they struck a deal, one that was perhaps necessary for the game to actually get to market. It's unreasonable to say that a developer of such an anticipated title would be happy to throw their fans and investors under the bus for a bigger payout. So honestly, I think it's probably one of those cases of the studio, given the fact they were 3 years behind and seemingly the finances weren't adding up, it seems like they maybe needed to just look for money wherever they could. And of course, the Sween himself and his big bag of cash is more than happy to snap up an exclusive. It's a pretty harsh reality, absolutely. Many developers don't want to sign over any part of a passion project, but when push comes to shove, I'm assuming they felt like they needed to go with Epic, or else the game would have just fallen over. Again, that is speculation, but it seems to be vaguely reasonable. I think, as always, it's both parties acting their own interests between the dev and Epic, but those interests are not necessarily in line with consumers. Epic were willing to spend money to bring this game to market as an exclusive, and Mobius were willing to go against backers to do the same. It's a shame that the consumer has to lose out on platform choice as a result of this, although there is an argument that the alternative, i.e. having no game, would have been worse. What will be interesting to see, though, for sure, is when we actually get information from Fig, because, of course, Fig is investment. Those investors will find out, and they'll probably be able to reverse engineer how much money changed hands. Anyway, though, that's not all with Epic this week, because, according to Nico Partners' Daniel Ahmad, the Epic Games Store is now operating in China. Despite their relationship with Tencent, they have been operating in the same capacity that Steam has been, unofficially. Games available to purchase aren't licensed by Chinese regulators for sale, but they seem to be getting away with it for now. They support Chinese regional pricing, although it's still in dollars, and they do support WeChat Pay and Alipay, which are rough sort of equivalents for China to Apple Pay and PayPal. Honestly, it does seem like a bit of a no-brainer for them to do to get into that market, but what's interesting is that it's another example of Epic going against their word, this time within the space of 2 months. At GDC back in March, the head of the Epic Games Store, Steve Allison, was asked at a Q&A why the store isn't available in China. He more or less said that the way Steam operates in China is not legal, and Epic have employees in China that they don't want to put in legal risk. This was the same GDC panel, of course, where they said they wouldn't be pursuing exclusives forever. So, how much there is true? Maybe not that much. Now, look, there may be a Chinese policy change that we are not aware of to support this, or they may have an official deal in the works with China via Tencent, mirroring Steam, who are working on an official Chinese release with Perfect World. If that's not the case, well, it appears that the $16 billion PC gaming market is more important to Epic than the safety of their Chinese employees, which would be a little bit odd. And I mean, yeah, overall, it's just how much are their words worth? It is going back to when they said at GDC. Personally, though, I mean, look, I have concerns about the Chinese market being basically just too lucrative for publishers to avoid, but that given their extremely strict regulations on games and the market's different tastes to those of the West, that we may start to see our games change, and I do actually worry about that. I don't think it'll have much of an impact on developers who are making the games that they want to make, but I think it bodes ill when developers and publishers are willing to put their shareholders and financials over the quality and the vision of their games. That being said, making high-quality PC games available to 30 million more PC gamers does feel like quite a win from a developer's perspective. That's a lot more people who are ready to buy your game and to enjoy it, I suppose. Now, this is a developing story for now. It's definitely something we have to keep an eye on, but well, that's it for now. Closer to home, we have this next piece of news. Take-Two Interactive and their financials. As expected, with the continued popularity of GTA Online and the launch of Red Dead Redemption 2, their fiscal year has been pretty nuts, although below analyst expectations. They reported $2.67 billion in net revenue, which is up almost 50% from the $1.71 billion of the year before. They've said that 40% of their annual revenue came from virtual currency, add-ons, and in-game purchases, which is unsurprising. And then they said that 63% of their net revenue came through digital sales. So once again, digital very much is a very important thing. Honestly, each of their franchises and their properties has just been doing gangbusters recently, and I mean, yeah, their successes have really been in many ways beyond the scope of the average for the industry, with GTA 5 shipping 110 million units in its lifetime, which is mad. Red Dead Redemption 2 is obviously doing extremely well, with 24 million units shipped. As exceptional as that is, though, they do plan on beating their revenue next fiscal year, and that, they say, is going to be off the back of Red Dead Redemption Online success. Now, at its beta launch, I recall it being received quite poorly and not having that much content. However, this is the important bit. They say it is performing better than GTA Online was when it was in its similar stages. CEO Strauss Zelnick said that they are excited about the long term of RDO and that they expect it to leave beta this quarter and to receive significant content updates. Given the long-term success of GTA Online, this makes complete sense. I would argue that even the world wasn't quite ready to throw all the money, well, at the world, at live services in 2013, but I think that has since changed. Consumers seemingly are a lot more accepting of that. Company revenue just shows us that. Then on top of that, the online components of GTA and RDR2, I think they're probably more targeted at like kind of a more casual gaming crowd, for at least the MTX participation. And that probably all will go very well for Take-Two. And really, most publishers, they've seen varying levels of success at extracting more money from gamers on their game purchases before they hop on to the next game. Those gains, though, seem to pale in comparison to when a publisher is able to just monetize people who are dedicated to a single game for a very long time, over like 4 years. And that seems to be what happens with, well, ideally for them, Red Dead Redemption 2 and also GTA Online. The revenue from sports games, I think, sort of on an IP level supports this, with EA being more than happy with the amount of revenue that FIFA Ultimate Team drives. And ultimately, Take-Two are in a pretty unique position because they have loads of those benefits, but they have a really incredible mass market draw for their games. And that could allow them to outperform, well, just about everyone else. If nothing else, it's food for thought. Then one additional point on Take-Two. Unlike some, they aren't happy with riding the coattails of existing games either. They seem to have a lot of ambition. They have a lot in the works, and Strauss said they have the strongest development pipeline in Take-Two history, working on sequels and on new IP. In fact, he said that with Rockstar, they have outright purchased Druva Interactive, a 300-strong Indian development studio. They provide support and art production services, having had dozens of high-profile games be outsourced to them in the past. Sea of Thieves, Days Gone, and Spider-Man are just to name a recent few. Druva promised that all current client jobs will continue, but they go on to say that they will operate as a part of Rockstar India. So that's just 300 experienced devs in one fell swoop. I mean, it's a bit obvious to me. If you want to make money in the gaming industry, developing and selling games is oddly enough the best way to do that. That's something that Activision Blizzard have only just remembered recently with, of course, their big new drive to just ship more product. Now, moving to the other side of the planet, publishers have talked about their finances as well. First, Square Enix had a weak year. What went wrong? Did Kingdom Hearts 3 fail? Did Octopath Traveler not drive nostalgic sales from the millions of Switch owners? Apparently, their fault lies with their marketing costs. In their words, the issue was, quote, higher costs associated with the release of new titles. So Octopath, Tomb Raider, Just Cause, and Kingdom Hearts 3 all actually sold well, driving a higher number of net sales than they've seen in years, but this year was still damn near 30% less profitable than the last. As for next year, they have multiple new titles slated for launch, but they expect units sold to decline overall. Kind of sad to see, but perhaps they've learned something from these results, something that EA have mentioned too. Traditional big budget games marketing is no longer worth the exorbitant cost, and a more customer-focused, community-driven way is probably what's going to be more cost-effective in the future. I mean, hey, you just need to look at the Wendy's or Burger King Twitter accounts. Next, we've got Capcom. Capcom might be learning a supremely positive lesson from their recent performance. Monster Hunter World shipped over 12 million units as of this quarter, their best-selling game of all time, and then Devil May Cry 5 and Resident Evil 2 have shipped over 2 and 4 million units respectively. This has resulted in record profits, which are up 13% from last year. In their consolidated figures, they even say this, quote, highest profit levels in Capcom history, driven by the growth of core consumer business. So it's clear to us and to them that if you make high-quality games that are aligned with your audience's desires, the audience is going to buy them in droves. And that's a really beautiful lesson to learn. I hope it's one that others try to emulate. Their success comes from a pretty interesting place in the current market, and I think their strategy of franchises, reviving franchises with quality game launches, just with that being at heart, it's a pretty relieving success story, really, as a core gamer. I mean, let's be frank, when we hear about the immense revenue of Fortnite or microtransactions, we're like, oh, it's kind of a grimace, that's what it's met with. But this, it's like, oh, they made a big boatload of money by selling 12 million games that were really good. That's just a good thing to hear in general, and I hope they take away the right lessons from that. And really, for me, that's what it all is with the financial results. They're great to study. They're the kind of common language between developers and publishers. But what's pertinent to the customer is the strategy that develops as a result of that. Take-Two, despite huge recurrent customer spending, are focused on making more games and more content for their games. Square Enix know that their marketing spend is too high, but that their game sales are up, so hopefully they'll try to move in a better direction. And Capcom have done fantastically well by making well-received games that people have wanted to buy. Despite how Epic are making missteps and making us all feel a bit sad, and, China stealing the attention maybe of larger publishers, there very well could be a bright-ish future for games driven by customers just buying the games that they want to play and publishers making those games as a response. It certainly seems to be what Capcom is doing, and hopefully they continue to do so. So there you go, that's it for today. Let me know what you thought about everything we talked about. Have you been enjoying Capcom's recent swathe of excellent quality games? Are you excited for the future, or are you, a bit worried about how epic the future could be? The industry is undergoing a lot of turbulence, to be sure, and maybe it'll get worse before it gets better, but it certainly is interesting to watch. And really, that's the best we can do here, find the interesting news and talk about it. So let me know. Thank you very much for watching this video, and with that, I'll see you next time.